Hello, and welcome along to the stream tonight. I hope everyone is doing okay this evening and happy, healthy, all of the above. So, for me, it's the start of the. And there is sound. I forgot to push the unmute button for a second there. But I fixed it. So for me, start of the school holidays now, so things are changing a little bit again, and it's no longer trying to do the support of little people doing activities for school. Now it's a case of trying to keep them entertained all by ourselves. That's been fun. Matthias, 15 months, thank you very much. Matthias, dev lead, resubscribe with a tier 1 sub. Thank you very much. So what are we doing tonight? So the last couple of days, the last couple of my evenings have been spent going round and round in circles. And since he's here in the chat room, I'll say that it's all Matthias's fault. So Matthias pointed me at this. So dog and tail, indeed, just going round and round and round. And I've been bugging Kim about it as well. But basically, Matthias pointed out to me for another project that we've been doing some updates of, is that in NuGet Package Explorer, when you open up a nupkeg in NuGet Package Explorer, then Claire Novotny, who is the maintainer of the NuGet Package Explorer tool, has extended it to include warnings, errors, other bits and pieces of when there are things in the NuGet package that aren't quite right. Okay, so one of them in this example is deterministic. DLL/exe, and its result is non-deterministic. So we found this as a result of some changes that we were putting into Cake.Frosting, and Matthias created an issue that said we had to fix this. So we did that in Cake.Frosting. We went ahead and we absolutely did that. We fixed it in Cake.Frosting. So I thought I was then updating Cake.json. So Cake.json is a Cake-Contrib addin, and there was a suggestion that it needed a new version because it was no longer had the same version of Newtonsoft.json that was being used by Cake itself, and it was causing warnings in the build output log. So I went ahead and I thought, right, fine, I am going to update Cake.json. I'm going to push out a new version, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to add in some new stuff. So there was a couple of things that come along for the ride. One was I wanted to add in SourceLink. So that is the ability to allow or enable debugging of Cake add-ins using either a snupkeg file, which is pushed independently to NuGet.org, or by embedding the PDB into the NuGet package and having links to the source code files on GitHub, or wherever your source code repository is stored. So we did that. That worked fine, no problem. Tested it out, it's all working. And then I thought, right, I'm going to I'm going to fix the deterministic build. So what is the what is this deterministic thing? So if you go over to Claire's repository that is called deterministic builds, then there's an example project here, and it walks you through what it is. So effectively, my understanding of it is that in order to know that, there's a better explanation here rather than me trying to do it. Deterministic builds are important as they enable verification that the resulting binary was built from the specified source and provides full traceability. So at the minute, if you do a build on your machine, then what goes into the PDB files are file paths to the files on your file system. So if someone else does the build on another machine, then those PDB files are going to be different. So there's no traceability, and there's no it's non-deterministic in the sense that you don't know for a fact that what went into the generated exe or DLL is what was expected. So by making a deterministic build, and normally you'd only do this when you're running on a CI platform, that it provides full traceability that the generated exe, the generated DLLs came from the specified source. So you enable that by it's really simple. It's meant to be really simple. You just add this continuous integration build through, and everybody's happy. Now, to an extent, that works. Now, the issue that I was running into, and I'm still running into, is that as soon as I enable this, I get an error. So if I walk over to ci.appware.com, which is where I'm doing my builds, if I walk over to here, if I walk over to Cake.json, then you'll see that that build is failing. Now, if you scroll down here, all the way at the bottom, so I've enabled verbosity diagnostic on this build so I could try and figure out what was going on. Then the end result of this process is an exception, and it's an exception coming from the Coverlet msbuild.targets. Now, the reason this is important is because in order to be fully deterministic all the way through the build process, or more specifically, because I've enabled SourceLink and because I want to enable deterministic builds, it's rewriting a bunch of stuff within those PDB files. So the file locations are different, etc., etc. So when you run Coverlet through the .NET test tool, it needs to figure out where the files are on the file system in order to know how to do the coverage reports and how to figure everything out. So upon reading and doing some reading, there was a suggestion that I could run or to pass in an additional command, or not command, pass in an additional property to the Coverlet tool, which would, so if I grab this link, I'm going to bring this one up, I'm going to paste this in. If I were to enable this property, then it would be able to take all of that good information that's now being generated by SourceLink as a result of the deterministic build, and it would take all of that information and it would stick it into the Coverlet coverage report that's ultimately generated. And all of that goodness would be through Cake.Recipe, all of that information would be published up to coveralls.io or codecov.io or wherever the coverage metrics are being stored for your project. So this is where I was trying to get to, and it didn't work very well. Or more specifically, it didn't work at all to start with. So I had conversations on the Slack team with the Cake team, the Slack team with the Cake team, had some conversations in there, had some conversations with Kim, went backward and forwards. There is a workaround documented specifically on the Coverlet page for how to get things working, and that involves putting stuff into directory builds.targets file. So as soon as I do this on my project for Cake.json, that's when I get the build failure. If I don't put that workaround in place, then the build works, but the resulting coverage report doesn't have anything in it. There's nothing to be published to say that the tests run and the tests all succeed, but the coverage report doesn't actually end up where it's meant to be. So that's a problem. So I was on Twitter with Claire, and I forget the gentleman's name, but he's one of the team members of the Coverlet team. Let me just find his name so I can say it. Marco. So he pointed me at an issue. So let me bring this up because I'll need this for later. So I'm going to grab this. He pointed me at this issue, which when you read through it, is exactly the problem that I've got. So there's a key not found exception, and that is exactly the error that I've got in here somewhere. There is a key not found exception somewhere. It's in there, right? So, so Matthias is suggesting in the chat room that if we test less, we'll have fewer fails. Now, yes, that logic is in no way fundamentally flawed, and we should just rip out the unit test project and everything will be happy, right? But no. The suggestion within this issue is to temporarily disable the use SourceLink property that is currently being passed into my test execution. So this is me in the Cake.Recipe code base. Right now, I am appending the use SourceLink equals true property when I'm running Coverlet. And we can see that in the build log. So if we go back over here and we look at here and we do a search in here for use SourceLink, then we'll see it, it's right there. So that additional property is being passed through to the execution of .NET Test. And that is ultimately going to be picked up by Coverlet, which is running in process of MS Build when .NET Test executes, right? So the suggestion is if I remove that property, everything will work. Now, what I think I'm losing from that, though, is that if we go back to here, we are then losing the fact that Coverlet will use the SourceLink URIs in the place of the document paths in the coverage results. Now, I've had a bit of a discussion with Kim offline about this. He doesn't see this as a problem. I'm on the fence about it. I'll be honest. I sort of like the fact that the coverage report, which I'm ultimately going to push to CodeCov or to coveralls.io, contains the links, the source link links to the files that went into the build that ultimately generated that coverage report. But I can also understand that that's not necessarily what everyone wants. But at this point in time, I kind of just want to get it to work, right? So I have everything building locally on my machine here. So this is Cake.json. Now this is all running. This is not generating an error. Now the reason that that's not generating an error is because the injection of the continuous integration build property only happens when I am running on AppVeyor, or more specifically, your CI of choice. So if I go up to here and look at my build.cake, then in here I should find a continuous integration build property. Now at the minute, that is only being injected into the MS build process when I'm not running a local build. So that's why it's running locally for me, but it doesn't build on AppVeyor. Now what Kim's saying is those links would still not be viewable to the user on CodeCov coveralls. So this is maybe what I was getting confused about when we were chatting about earlier, Kim. So let's just finish this thought process. So if I walk up to here and go to, let's just go to coveralls.io. That didn't work. Coveralls.io. Seriously. So if I go up to here and I sign in, this will, I'm not sure if I'll have anything here. Yeah, this is not actually who I wanted to be signed in as, but let's go CIO, a new government agency. I'm confused. What's that about, Maurice? What was I going to try and show there? I was going to try and find, let me find a link to a project. Let's do this. So I'm off screen a little bit, but I'll come back in a sec. Let's go here. So if we go to this one as an example, then this build here, yeah, so let's grab this, put this in here. Then this one, if we look at this build that's published at coveralls.io, then ultimately if we drill down in here and then into one of these files, then yes, this link here, I expect that using the use source link property pushed into the MS build process that Coverlet is running under with the .NET test tool, I think this link here would link to the GitHub for that file linking.cs rather than that URL. Oh, I see, did I? Okay. Okay. And now I see what you're saying. So that is what I think will happen with that use source link property, that this would link to the actual file, which I think could be useful because at the minute, this is different on everyone's machine. There's nothing to say that I have got that exact location, although it's a relative path, so it's technically it would be in there. But I think that becomes a link that you can click on. So could be useful, could not be useful. I'll leave you to decide. But that's where I think it comes into play. But for now, I am going to remove this property. So, because that to me is what this issue is saying. So if we go back to this issue, you can now specify that Coverlet uses SourceLink URIs in place of document paths in the coverage results. So that to me is a document path. And I suspect that that will be replaced with the SourceLink URI to the same file in GitHub. And that would also, in some of the examples that we looked at yesterday, Kim, where the GitHub link was in the coverage report, in place of this, leads me to that conclusion. So anyway, but I can't prove it just now as well. Whether it's a clickable link, I've genuinely got no idea, because at the minute I can't publish the reports to where I need to go, so I don't know the answer to that. But I think that's what it's trying to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a link to this issue, and I'm going to put this into Cake.Recipe. So I'm going to comment this out, and I'm going to put in a note here. Note: this currently causes an exception during the build on addin. And is related to this issue. Once this issue is fixed, would be good to come back here to re-enable this. Sorry, don't mark on Twitter. Didn't Mark on Twitter suggest you use to false? Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. I want to take that out. Sorry, my bad. Absolutely, thank you. This is the one we want. So, at the minute, I'm enabling this. The default is false. So I'm going to take this one out. Absolutely right, Kim, sorry. So, taking that out, it's now going to be false. And here, I'm going to go ahead and, well, let's make sure that we haven't broken anything first. Let's run a build here, make sure that we haven't broken anything. And if that works, I'm going to push this to Cake.Recipe. Cake.Recipe will then need to be updated in Cake.json, and then test it all out. Yes, Marco, not Mark. Oh, I should have kept that page open then. So let's keep this open. I'll explain this in a second. Give me this. Keep this open. CD into GitHub. Organizations. Not chocolatey today. Cake-Contrib. Cake.json/tools. It's not going to keep my history, so let's keep mk link -d somewhere to somewhere else. So basically what I'm doing here is I created a symlink, or a directory symlink to Cake-Recipe running locally on my machine. The reason for doing that being that I can test out the build locally before I actually push it, reducing the number of cycles that I have to do. So that's going to fail, that's fine. You should really cough into your elbow. If I was in the company of other people, I would absolutely do that. Just now I've only got my microphone to cough into, so I can clean that later. Anyway, where was I? So we were Cake.Recipe. We have made this change, and we're going to say build. Attempting to get build to work. based on conversation, based on Twitter conversation with Coverlet developer. Let me grab that link. That was here. It's this one. Copy. Going to not enable 1, 2, 3 this property just now. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to say yes to that. Okay, and if we do, that's a change to Cake.Recipe, so if we do git push upstream, and then git push origin, that should kick off a CI build in appvar for Cake.Recipe. So that's this one, so let's open that one, and then let's open JSON as well. And your mouse and keyboard and everything you touch. Indeed, indeed. So how is everything faring in, where have we got today? We've got the Netherlands, we've got Sweden, we've got Norway. Is everything still progressing as normal? Has there been any changes to life as you know it? While this build is happening. Because if we can get this working and I make a few changes, then Pascal has asked for a change to Cake.Recipe that I need to look into, and also I may update another PR into Cake for some changes that I need for my machine as well. Also, you are on cam, you're an influencer. What, I should be wearing a mask? Is that what we're saying? Interesting. So Kim's saying that in Norway, as far as he's concerned, everything is back to normal. Interesting. Okay. Not quite here yet. Things are still, it's 57. So if we go over to here and change my recipe.cake to be 57, save that, and let's make a change here. Build update to latest Cake.Recipe. Recipe. Get there in the end. Change that. Yep. And then over on this one, git push upstream. Life is getting more and more back to normal. Okay, so Maurice, bit higher prices is all that's left. Git push origin, but higher prices than normal. If only the mask would be. Ooh, there's an idea. Oh, did everyone see what Jan did recently? Where's that? It's pretty cool. I'm tempted to get one. Where did it go? Let me bring this up. I thought it was pretty cool. Anyway, while this builds, while we'll wait on that build. Did everyone see what Jan's been up to? Obi Jan, indeed. He got himself an 8-bit avatar made, including the chocolatey logo. So this is our friend Jan. I was going to say Jan Punker, but it's not Jan Punker at all. Jan Krager. He's taken his a picture of himself and had it made into an 8-bit avatar, which I thought was pretty cool. And the fact that it's got a chocolate logo there is awesome. So I'm tempted to go and grab one, because this guy, I want to say Mark, he has a, you can commission him to create your own one. It's only $8, I think, so it's not a huge amount of money, but I'm tempted to get one. And he was trying to get, he's on his new goal. Previously, he had a goal for a new Surface book, or Surface Go, sorry. So now he made that goal. So he's on to his second goal, which is for a Surface dock, and that's all from the creation of these avatars, which, like I said, I thought was pretty cool. So it's on my list to have a look at. But anyway, where do we get to? So this is where it failed before. So we've got path. So removing that property from the injection into MS build has made that work. So it's updating the pre-release packages. And what we should get to is it publishing Coverall's report. So previously, the publishing of the Coverall's report and the publishing of the Code-Contrib report wouldn't fail, but there would be nothing there. So let's see what Cake-Contrib does for us this time. So Cake-Contrib has updated. If I take this, paste this into here, this would fail for me before. Oh, that's different. So now I'm getting information. So none of this was here before. None of this was here before. So this has worked. So, and if I go over to coveralls I've got on my other machine and I refresh this, has it correctly pushed a new report to coveralls? It has. Interesting. So if I grab this link and bring this up to here, and click on this, then in here, it's just been, oh no, hold on, that's still from recent builds. That's still from the other day. I wonder if it's just processing, because that hasn't updated yet, but that's okay, I think, for now. Let's back to here. Executing. So it did upload it, so it's maybe just taking a while to go through. I'll keep an eye on that in the background. But the fact that it's pushed to Cake-Contrib with results is a step in the right direction. So let me just update this issue to say that, let me grab this. Let me grab Marco. As requested on Twitter, here I have updated my build to no longer pass in let me just grab it so I get it right. Pass in this, and I can confirm that the build that was failing is now succeeding, and coverage reports are now successfully being pushed to Cake-Contrib.io where they were failing before. Thanks for the tip. Let me know if there is anything that I can do to help with the testing of this issue. Okay, I'm going to comment on there. So effectively, so now we need to test some more stuff. Typing on stream when talking is difficult, regardless of whether it's on a stream or not. It just, yeah, it's not easy. So what I wanted to do next was, so hold on, what Kim said. Remember that you still have the path workaround in the library. I think if you remove that one, the reports wouldn't be detected. I think you're right. So there's a couple of competing things going on here. It's one is that I've enabled SourceLink, and in doing that, I've effectively broken the coverage reports generation. I need that workaround in the directory targets, directory build targets. If we go over here and look at the source folder, there's this. I need that in play for it to work. Otherwise, you end up with an error about unable to find underscore blah, 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 blah files. So you need this workaround. But in order to get everything to work the way that I think folks want it to work, i.e. SourceLink enabled, fully deterministic build with the resulting files URIs in the coverage report for it all to work, both of these things need to happen. Both of these things need to work. So there's a couple of competing things going on. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, sorry, yes. So that's what I brought up here. So this workaround is indeed needed, right? So this is now working, but now we need to test it. So the first thing that we need to test is if I go over to here and I look at, I don't have the URL now, but if I go to github.com/cake build, if I go here, why did that not work? Oh, I see. I'm like, why is that URL not working? I know why it's not working. I missed a letter. So if I go here, and then I go to a different URL, so I'm going to grab this. So one of the other things I've been working on is I've been working on pushing the artifacts of my builds from Cake-Contrib to different places. So if I go in here and look at, that might not work. I found it though. So in addition to publishing, oh no, I don't see any package. Oh, there we go. In addition to pushing artifacts to myget, I'm also pushing them to an Azure Artifacts repository in Azure DevOps. And then if I go up to here and look at Cake-Contrib/home, then in here, if I go to Cake-Contrib and look at packages, then I'm also pushing it to here. So you might think this is a little bit excessive, and it almost certainly is, but I kind of like the idea of folks being able to consume packages from where they want them. So they're now being pushed to myget. We're limited in the amount of space that we can put on myget at the minute. So there's only like the last couple of packages for each add-in up there. But we've also got a public Azure DevOps, Azure Artifacts. It's going to have packages on it. And we're also using GitHub package repository. So depending on what your workflow is, you can grab those packages from multiple places now. The file could technically be generated by Cake.Recipe during runtime, but that's a different story. Yeah, given that it's a workaround, yeah, I'm not sure if I like that idea. Interesting thought process though. OPD, obsessive pushing disorder. I think I am guilty of having that. I can take that one. So what I was going to check was, now that we have done source linking and we've done it as embedding the PDB into the NuGet package, I should be able to download the nutkeg from one of these locations and verify in NuGet Package Explorer that it has got green ticks where it had a green and a red one before. And then we can also try out debugging into said cake.json DLL with a cake script to see if it's all working the way we want it to. So first things first, do we have the NuGet Package Explorer installed here? No, we don't. So let's walk up to here and do choco install NuGet package. Oh, it's all one word, I think. NuGet Package Explorer. It is installed. Why is it not showing up? let's upgrade it then. NuGet package explorer. No, I'm fairly sure that there is a start menu for it. Fairly sure. I'm curious. There is an upgrade available, so let's get that installed as well. And let's click on here and let's just make sure that it was 36 that got pushed. So pushing of number 36, yes. So let's click on download here. So that'll get us the nutcag. In fact, I could have just double clicked on it now that we have it, but now that we've started the process, we should let it install. I could have just double clicked on it. But I may have on this machine, I may need a newer version in order to have the deterministic builds option. So probably just as well that we did this. So let's let it upgrade. How are we doing for time? 37 minutes in. We're doing okay. Let's do this. I seem to remember this generating lots of red text the last time I installed it. There we go. Lots of red text. I'm relatively sure. So that there are shims for it, but I'm relatively sure I've seen it in my start menu. That is bizarre. I know I've seen it. Anyway, let's not worry about it. Let's double click on this guy. There we go. Look at that. So we've got a green tick around SourceLink. We've got a green tick around deterministic build. The only one that we don't have a green tick on is this one. But in order for that to work, I need to be using a preview build of the .NET SDK, which is 3.1400. I'm not going to do that yet. So I'm okay with that being a warning. So I'm okay with that. So next up, we need another one of these. And let's cd into C temp, not that one, the other one. And then we're going to create a new, since Kim's on the old chit chat here, I'm going to ask him something directly. So earlier, when I was messing about with something, I ran your cake addin generator for, I'm getting bored of that, for cake via Yeoman. So I went yo cake addin. Something weird happened. I'm going to show you it and see if it happens again. Probably won't now that you're on the chat, but I want to show you it anyway. Right, so I'm going to just give it a name, which is cake.get13. I'm going to make it get13. Sure. I see, he already knows about it. So I'm going to say that MIT source folder recipe, no, yes, 4, 2, no, and it takes me back to the start, but it sounds like that's a known issue. Is that right? Or have we been down this route before? Because the end result was that if I go through it again, it does work. Okay, fine. So you know about it. So I'm happy with that. So if I go into here again, take this guy out again. Okay, so I'm going to create a new one, make their cake test, cd into cake test, and code into there. I am going to attempt to create a cake script which will exercise cake.json to test out whether we can step into it correctly. Seems to only happen on Windows. Oh, interesting. Okay. Document feature. Sure. Install a bootstrapper. Let's install that, and then let's install that again to get me a bash one. Don't really need it, but let's do that, and then let's do a cake to give me a sample build file. Sure. And let's just make sure that everything is working. There is an issue with this, so we'll need to fix that. But if we create a new folder here, .vs code, and then in there we create a new file called launch.json. Then in here I can add a configuration that is a cake one to there, and then if I go up to here and I do a cake to install debug dependencies, let's get those installed, and then on my cake script, if I walk up to here and put a breakpoint and hit F5, then it doesn't exist. Did it not finish downloading? No, because then now it's only just finished downloading. So if I do that F5 again, then it does a bunch of stuff. Ultimately, we should hit this breakpoint. Okay, cool. So then I always have to look it up, but if we go up to cakebuild.net and we go into documentation and we look at fundamentals and we look at preprocessor directives there, then I want to grab one that is coming from an alternative feed, which is this one. So I'm going to walk up to here, I'm going to put this in, and it's not cake.foo, it's cake.json, latest pre-release, and the myget feed, if I can remember what it is, it's myget.org/Cake-Contrib. Feed does not exist. So let me log into myget and get the, that's not going to work. Let me log into myget and get the URL. Hello Sean, how are you? It's working, but we're just testing it out just now to see if it's actually working. So cake.json, I'm just creating a little test script to exercise the package from the myget feed. So let's grab this guy and I'm going to put it into here. Okay, if we do that, then currently we have nothing there, but if I run that build again, it should attempt to find that myget package and download it. So what we have verified, Sean, is that the newly created NuGet package creates it has the PDB files contained within it. So we're embedding we're source linking the PDB, and that's embedded into the NuGet package. We've verified that SourceLink is valid and it's a deterministic build. So all of that part worked. The code coverage reports have been successfully posted to codecov.io. They hadn't quite appeared on coveralls.io yet, and they're still not there, so that's a different issue. See, I don't know if that's a loaded question there, Kim, regarding the GitHub packages feed or not. Why not use a GitHub packages feed? Because that would require, at the minute, it's not a public. To consume the packages from there, I would need to authenticate to the feed in order to pull it down. To do it from, you could do it from the Azure artifacts. It's public, so you can consume them from there. I just went with myget because, yeah, I have no real reason that I did that. But what should have happened now is it should have resolved that cake.json, which it has. So now we should be able to step into it. Now, the thing that I was talking to Sean about the other night was, in order to actually test cake.json, there isn't actually much of an API surface that you can actually step into. but I did find one that I could play with. So let me just remind myself about what that was. So cake.json's source, cake.json, and the JSON aliases. There was one which was this one, deserialize from file. So if we go up to here and we do deserialize from file, var string equals string, that's on the context, and then we need to give it something. So in here, in here, in here, cake test, new. Let's do it here then, if it's going to be difficult. Test.json. I'm just going to put some random stuff in here. Hello, Bob. Okay, so in here, if I put in C temp test cake test test.json. Okay, and then we also need to go back to our launch.json, and we need to add one extra entry into here, which is trust my code. We're going to say false to that. So now over here, if I set a breakpoint there and hit F5, let's see what happens. So that's our stepping into the cake code, but if we play through that, then we should get back to our build.cake file. No, because I've got a syntax error. What have I done? On line 33. It's a lack of backslashes, is it? Let's do this. Let's do this. Try that again. Let's do this. I'll come back to the questions in the chat room. I just want to see if this works. I know there's a few there. So coming in here. Oh, we still fail. What's going on? .33. What have I done? Deserialize from string. What have I done? Oh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, absolutely, Sean. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so now if I step into, that will break there. Martin Bjorkström has already put a PR up into Cake to fix it so that this second step in isn't required. But if we step in again, then we get to here. Okay, so this nupkeg, which is now generated from our appver build, which has SourceLink enabled, deterministic build enabled, publishing of code coverage reports to codecov.io all working, we've verified that it has everything ticked, which is what we want, and that the included PDB files contained within, embedded within the nupkeg are all working. So I think that's a win. So answer the question that just popped up just now is that no, we don't require a snupkeg anymore. So I went back and forth on this, and Sean provided some input off of the stream last week to just, so the snup keg, the only thing that the snup keg contains is that PDB file for each of the frameworks that it's publishing for. So it's a very small package, doesn't contain much. It does provide visibility on NuGet.org, but having the PDB embedded into the nupkeg package provides the exact same functionality as the snupkeg package pushed separately, but it also means that there's less things to be done on the client side to actually enable it. So here, the only thing I had to enable was just my code to false. If we continued to have the snupkeg package, there would have been additional changes in here and in Visual Studio to enable grabbing that source link, grabbing the snupkeg from a specific source. So by embedding it, we make the nupkeg package slightly bigger, but it means that we can also test it from other locations. So this whole pushing to MyGet, pushing to Azure Artifacts, pushing to GitHub Package Repository, none of those at the minute accept snupkegs. The only place that we can push a snupkeg to would be to NuGet.org. By embedding the PDB into the nupkeg means that we can do what I'm doing here from multiple places without having to use NuGet.org directly. So let's go back through some of the chat that I've missed while I've been doing some of the stuff. So Kim was saying, I wonder if the compiler flags is missing because it is a library. I know it shows up for .NET Core tools. So based on the message here, it says, ensure you're using at least the 3.1.400 preview. The following assemblies have not been compiled with a new enough compiler. So it could be related to that, but I was just basing it on the fact that I'm not using the latest and greatest bits. So that's why I was putting that down to. Didn't think that you needed to. So I'm interested. So let's carry that thought process through. So what we did was we used the MyGet feed there. So let's do this. Let's test from the other locations as well while we're here. So let's delete the cake.json addin that was resolved from MyGet. Let's walk over to here and get the feed URL from here. So if I do connect to feed, I should be able to go in here and get this URL. So if I grab this guy, copy, and replace the MyGet feed in here with the Azure DevOps one, and we run a build, then we should see that resolve the package from there. That's maybe a good test to do actually, just to close out some of this stuff. So in here, we've now got the cake.json, and it should be 36, I think was the number. Yeah, 36. And we step into there and hit F11. We get there, we come back to here, and then we're into there. So that's working. So that is it being resolved correctly from MyGet, and it being resolved correctly from Azure Artifacts. The last one is the GitHub Package Repository. So if we go up to here, then how do I find the feed for this thing? Learn more. Is it just the same as the github.com? Let me find the URL that I pushed to and see if it's the same URL that's used for consuming it. I'm fairly sure, the last time I checked on this, you had to authenticate to the feed in order to be able to download it. But I'm curious now, based on what Kim said, whether that's still true. So let me go into here. This is off screen because I don't want you folks seeing this at the minute. So if I grab this one, I do this and do this, and I go back into Visual Studio Code, which is this one. So let's stop debugging that. Let's delete that add-in from there. And back in our build.cake file, if I replace this with this, then that is my GitHub URL for the package feed. So if I run this, what happens? I was reliably informed. Look at that. That is new. I was under the impression, or originally, you had to authenticate to the source that is the package repository in order to consume packages from it. This is good to know. Thank you for that, Kim. That's good. I like that. So this worked, and then if I hit step into, then it's all working. Perfect. Okay, so now with Cake.json being pushed to myget, Azure Artifacts, and GitHub package repository, you have your choice of where you want to consume the pre-release packages from. So good to know. Good to know. Where did I get to? Why not VS Code launch JSON? I'm not sure what I missed there, Maurice, but if you want to follow up with that, we can. And so that was Sean pointing out the fact that I had a string when I shouldn't have. Then we spoke about the snapkeg. Also include the source files itself. It can also include the source files itself. That would definitely result in a much bigger package. So the source linking of them prevents the need for that. So that's good to know. Snap. I'm assuming that's safe for work. Otherwise, Maurice wouldn't have put that through. So let's do a copy of that. So indeed, this is what I think of when I say snapkeg. I'm talking about a beer keg, obviously. So that is a snapkeg, indeed. Will the compiler flags warning be fixed in the next? I believe so. So that was Sean asking that question. Just hope no one is running their builds on a CI where you need to pay for bandwidth. Just hope. Not sure what that was referring to either. And I am, let me just put that out. So .NET info. Here I am running this, and that's also what's running on AppVeyor as well. Yes. And it does need, so that I don't have. I don't have any preview SDKs. Oh, hold on. But Kim's saying that the 300 one should be enough. That is what I'm using on code.exe and the Nuke Explorer. Oh, interesting. But but you're saying that is indeed in a .NET Core tool, so that might be the difference. And yes, Sean, I was as surprised as you were. I genuinely, you obviously need to push it. For when you're pushing, you need to authenticate. But I was under the impression you still needed a token for consumption as well. So that opens up the potential for that working. So what I'm hoping to find, or what I'm hoping to do, is to go to here. No, not to there. Where was it? I'm hoping to fill this packages feed up on GitHub with basically all the Cake add-ins that are in the Cake-Contrib organization. I want to fill this up with all of them. So that's good to know. He was submitting that when you created test.js. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I could have done that. I mean, I wasn't actually deserializing it properly anyway, so it was just a test. But yes, I see what you're saying. It's only been safe after o'clock in the morning. It's beer o'clock somewhere, indeed. A bigger nupkeg file is due to embedded. Yes, indeed. Okay, so with that done, I can do a couple of things, I think. So the first thing I want to do is I want to release a new version of Cake.json, which includes all of this stuff. So I'll do that first. And then there's a couple of things we need to tidy up, but we can do that after the release. So if I go over to here and we just checked where we're at, push that, everything was working. So let's check out a new branch that is release 5.2.0, I think. Is that what we're gunning for? GitHub, Cake-Contrib, Cake.json. That's clearly not going to work because that's not typed correctly. So the releases that we are working towards are milestones 520. So let's take that from the develop branch. Beautiful. And then if we do a build here with the target of release notes, we should be able to generate a set of release notes. JSON would be happy with the new version. So the other thing I should point out, Kim, in case you're interested, I've made some changes to Cake.Recipe. So now, if you're running a .NET Core build, it will prefer the usage of the .NET Global Tools versions rather than the full-fat framework versions of tools. So having run this build here, you will see that in my tools folder, I've now got the shim for report generator, Git version, and Git release manager, rather than installing or downloading the full-fat .NET framework versions into the tools folder. So there's maybe some work to do there still in terms of providing a way to override that. But if you're running a .NET Core build, you already have the .NET CLI. So why not just use the .NET Global Tool versions of the tools rather than the full-fat .NET Framework versions? So to conclude, if there is someone running builds on a CI where they need to pay for all the network traffic, this could result in an increase in their expenses just because the NuGet packages now embed the PDB files, not relevant for a one package, but if all the packages change to embedded PDBs. Agreed. Edge scenario, and probably not that important, just wanted to have it mentioned. A valid concern. But like I say, I had the conversation with Sean, I had it with yourselves last week. I think going forward, my recommendation for Cake-Contrib add-ins will be to embed the PDBs and everything's just there, with source linked to the original repository for downloading of the symbols. And yes, they are normally a little bit tiny, but if you were to add the source files as well, then that would bump them up. The fact that we've got source link to download them as required, then everything's good. So where will I go to? So that created a release. So up here now on GitHub, Cake-Contrib, Cake.json. Well, they are tiny. So as an example, if we go up to here and we look at JSON, build artifacts, temp, publish libraries, Cake.json, standard, PDB, 2 kilobytes. So they're not big. So where did I get to? Sorry, I went to here. If I go to releases, then we should have a new one, a new draft release, which includes that. So that and that one. Okay, so that's that done. If we do git checkout master, git, that will go away, I think, when I do the merge. So if I do git merge, no ff into or from the release branch there, mother Hubbard. That is somewhat annoying. That is somewhat annoying. How to fix that? I know how I can fix it. It's not necessarily the way I wanted to do it, but okay. Let's do this. But I fixed them. But I fixed them on the develop branch. But I haven't fixed them in the master branch. And I can't pull in the change from the master branch because the change has already been made. But if I go over here, git fetch upstream, I haven't got it, so I haven't got the git rebase upstream develop, git checkout, git checkout master, git rebase upstream master get status mother bird. Okay, fine. I mean, I'm gonna fix it, but I don't like how I'm gonna fix it. That doesn't work, unfortunately. That won't work because it's being enforced by the get attributes file, which is inconsistent between Mac and Windows. So if I were to just attempt that, it would just come back to the exact same place. So it's there. You can't, and I can't do a get checkout either. I can't. I literally can't. It's being enforced by the get checkout. Doesn't do it. That's where I was going to go, Kim. Yes, that's exactly what I was going to do, which is why I opened up this, so I could see that it was just that one file. So in here, build, maint, fix line endings. Sure. And back to here, get status, get merge no ff from the release branch, get status. That's just an, oh, interesting. Why is that modified? Line endings again. After the commit, do a rebase instead of a merge. Too late. Well, the merge went in without a conflict, but I'm confused as to why it's also got those changes, because I didn't think it would. Oh, let me find something. Get the command I was thinking of. So I can tell you what's now in Git attributes because I fixed. Well, I brought in the new version. So in my Git attributes I have this guy, and this comes from our friendly neighborhood Cake addin generator for Yeoman that Kim created. So I've got no reason to suspect that this is not what we want. I'm wondering whether what's in the master branch hasn't been up. So yeah, maybe these line ending changes are valid. Fix line endings. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in. I am past caring. Git status, git push upstream. Git push origin. And it was only after we put it into master, so we haven't got any, there's nothing to go back into git checkout develop. Mother Hubbard. It is. Fine. Fine. I did that before the stream. So I did that, so I wonder if it's just kicking in for some other reason. But you know what? They're now at least consistent, so I'm okay with that. So make sure that this build doesn't fail. Well, I didn't do that. I did that instead. I think I did. Fairly sure I did. Fairly sure. Oh, I see. Maybe I should have waited to do that so you could tell me that. Anyway, okay. I'll maybe do the one that Sean did now that we're back on the develop branch once this release is created. So things that we're looking for is if we go up to NuGet.org and we look at packages, cake.json, then I fixed it. The icon's already there, so I fixed that already. So I was going to say that we can see that icon appearing, but it's already fixed. So that build succeeded. So we can walk up to here and we can edit this and we can publish this. And once that build starts, which it did, let's do this. So git push upstream and do git push origin. And then let's take the command that Sean had and then let's run that sucker here. Those can be run as two. Do I need to do those as two individual commands? Or should there be a semicolon in there? That's what I thought. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do that. And that should be us back. So there's no changes left. So I think we're good, right? Now, do I need to do that on the master branch as well? So that on this machine, we're back to the beginning. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. I wonder if NuGet have implemented the ability to include the README file in the NuGet package instead of uploading the README for every version separately. I wonder if NuGet have implemented the ability to include. Don't know. Have you guys seen this? Have you folks seen this? github.com/gep13/gep13. Have you seen this one? It's now a special repository. You can display the README of this repository as your public GitHub profile. So if I were to go to here, then it would appear in here somewhere. Whatever I put in the README of this repository, it would appear under my GitHub profile. Now, the reason that I asked the question on Twitter was because I currently use this repository as the host repository for my blog. Now, in hindsight, that maybe wasn't the best idea in the world. So I'm wondering whether I need to rename this to be something other than this, and then I'll have just this repository as serving just a single readme.md file. but I haven't played with it yet. But Kev has got it up and running. So if I were to look at Kev's account, then this here, so Kevin here, this is coming from his KevByte repository. And in here, this README, you can edit that to your heart's content. It's marked down, update it, and then whatever you put into there will appear here. It's pretty cool. I like it. Would be a boring README for me. Move along, nothing to see here, smile. I haven't really put much thought into what I'm going to put into mine yet, to be honest. I need to figure out how I'm going to handle that, but that's for a different day. So that was meant. Oh, did it go out? Did it go out already? Did I miss it? Oh, it did. So 5.2 sent a message to Gitter, sent a message to Twitter, and then over here at some point we should get a new package version that says 5.2.0, which is already there. 5.2.0 has the icon in it still, didn't break that again, and in theory, if I finish off that test, so if we go back over here and do this, and we go to my build.cake file, and we remove this source, leaving just the package, and take off the pre-release part, and we remove this folder. If we F5 this guy again, with still there, so F5 this should download the official 5.2.0 version. It says I need to play that first. This should download the 5.2.0 version, which it did, and then when we hit the breakpoint, I should be able to step into it in the same way that I did from the pre-release packages. Step into, that's going to be fixed in Cake. Step into, boom. Okay, cool. So that is working. Good. Okay. Is it a beta thing? I don't think it's a beta thing, Maurice, but I did hear that not everyone has access to it. So if you go to Kev's blog post, maybe just open it up. Let me find Kev's URL, Kev's blog post. Where's his blog? He must have a link to it. Come on, out there. Kev's got a blog post about it that walks you through what you need to do. But I think it was Dan on Twitter mentioned that not everyone has access to it. But definitely give it a try. I must have missed the notes about it. I didn't know about it until I happened to see Kev tweet about it. I just totally closed the wrong. I had to close all my things. Didn't want to do that. History. Open those again. Right. Muscle memory did something I didn't want to do on my keyboard there. So let's see what's going on here. This is, oh, that's the other thing I enabled on this repository, is I enabled Kim's amazing feature on, oh, did it not? Why did that not work? On Git Release Manager, it did do it. So Cake-Contrib bot now updates each issue that it has sent out as part of the release. So we get a nice link here to the GitHub release and a nice link to the NuGet package. So that was the feature that Kim added into Git Release Manager. So it's all there and that's all shiny. I saw that there was an update to one of these issues as well from hopefully Marco. I thought I saw that one being updated. Okay, it was. Okay, so Marco's there, he's on it. I'll keep an eye on that issue. Can I share that link? I can, sorry, I should have. github.com/KevByte. I'm gonna click on this one. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to grab this, and I'll put this into the chat room down here. There you go, Maurice. Oh, okay, sorry, too slow. So that's that done. Now there's a couple of things I wanted to do while I remembered. So the first thing was, and then we'll see what time we've got left. First thing was over on my appver.yaml file, I wanted to remove that verbosity. I don't need that anymore. So let's change this. Move verbosity argument. Yes. And the other thing that I want to change, Kim and Sean might be able to confirm this, is in my build directory.build targets file, I can put a package reference in here, correct? So rather than putting an individual package reference in here, I can put it into the directory build targets, correct? So I can do just that. Did I read somewhere that you also need to, you don't need to put it into the CS.proj, so I can remove it from the CS.proj file, correct? And then whatever is in this directory build.targets file will be picked up by each of the projects within this solution, correct? You normally put that in directory build.props. Okay, so which one is the right one? Should I put it into directory props or targets? Have I got it the wrong one here? So I take this out of here and I create a new file. Doesn't really matter, but yeah, the props would probably, okay, so directory.build.props. So do I need the same structure here as everything else? So I can put this in here just now. Do I need project at this point? I should probably just look this up. Directory.build.props. Customize your build. Sure. That's exactly what I want to do. So I do need. And there's that deterministic. You don't need that anymore. That's the thing, that's the documentation that you were referring to, right, Kim? That isn't needed anymore. Property group. Now they've got a property group rather than an item group. Is there another example in here? Project target. You know what? I'm going to go over to github.com and I'm going to look for an example. Humanizer. Let's look at Claire's Humanizer project, which will almost certainly have both of these. There we go. So project, property group, and it is an item group. So you know what? That's got almost everything I want there. So let's do here. Let's do this. Let's come back to that in a second. And then in here, you need to close that out to be a project. There we go. So hold on. Project and item groups. Not that one, but yes, found it wasn't needed anymore either as it's default. Yes, true is default. I agree, that's what I read that as well. So this here, I was also thinking that I added each of these things in, so I could take that out. Now the other one that Sean had me add was this one. So I'm going to put this in here as well, having removed it from there. I'm not sure what that one is, so I'm going to take that one out. Good to know. So Kim's saying that dependabot doesn't necessarily update a directory build.props with the version numbers. So that's something to keep in mind depending on what you're doing here. So then I'm going to update my CS_proj file here to take these three things out, and then also to take out this one. Don't need those because they're now going to be within my props file. And then if I go back to here and back to here, let's just make sure that we haven't broken anything. So just type that. So let's run the build again. So you never commented on my usage of the .NET Global Tools by default, Kim. I am curious as to what your thoughts are on that. Do you think that's a good idea, bad idea, or still need some more work? Let's wait for this build to finish locally. And let's have a look at this URL that Sean's just put in to the chat here. I thought I saw a red fly past there. I'm going to go back in a second. Got you. Okay. Oh, root element is missing. Couldn't it be loaded? Directory build.props. What did I miss? Directory build.props. Property group, project. Oh, is it because I've got an extra line there? I wonder. So what I was saying, it won't break anything for Jan's cake reference update or wherever you call it. That could also be moved to the props file. By Jan's, I think you're referring to Jericho, is that right? If it won't break anything for Jericho's cake reference updater, that could also be moved to the props file. I'll have to speak to him about that one. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, honestly. I think that's a good idea, but would need to test it for myself before I can say anything concrete. Yes. Okay, perfect. We're on the same page. So essentially what I did there, just to give you a heads up, was in the tool settings file. So I've now added some additional strings that represent the global tool versions of said tools. So they're just using .NET rather than NuGet, and then where they're used, so if I grab this one as an example, then in here I'm basically doing a check, because if it's a .NET Core build, use the .NET Global tool, otherwise use the full fat .NET Framework tool. Now obviously that has a dependency on the .NET tool module being available. So I was hesitant about doing it, but given that that module will eventually go into Cake Core, I'm okay with that. So Maurice has got confirmation that it's not going out to everyone. So let's bring that up so that we can finish that thought process. So regarding, we've only rolled it out to a portion of users. So this is the profile coming from a readme.md. So for now, yes, you have to be logged into an account that is in the test. So for some reason, I'm in the test audience. I don't know why, but I'm in the test audience. How are you loading the module? Okay, so this is where it comes to it. So at the minute, I have, in terms of getting the module into Cake.Recipe, I've created a modules.cake file. That's there. And then in terms of its usage, I added this into the bootstrapper at the bottom. So close these so we can see some stuff. But at the bottom, I do, seriously, go away. I do this. So I basically run Cake twice. I run Cake with the bootstrap command, or the bootstrap option to pull the module down, and then run Cake as normal. So a little bit of a cheat, but eventually the installation of modules should be a single operation within Cake itself. So this slight addition into the bootstrapper, I'm okay with. So is tool supported going to be moved to Cake Core for 1.0 rather than the... I don't know the answer, Sean. So I'm going to be honest, I don't know the answer. And the reason I don't know the answer is because if I go up to here and look at Cake build, Cake, done it again. Can we just get that repository and make it redirect to Cake? There is an open PR here. Milestones, let me find it. Milestones, this one, checklist, this one, and then the linked PR, which is here. I have been reliably informed that it is, but I also haven't looked through yet the 128 files that have changed in this PR. What I could suggest, if you are curious, is if you wanted to go ahead and build it and run it and test it, then it like I say, I've been reliably informed that it should do it, but I haven't tested it for myself, so I don't know. And in other words, yes and no. I don't. I don't know. Patrick said that it was going to be, but I haven't. Let's just have a little. Is there any mention of Bootstrap in here? So test fixtures have got a new additional bootstrapper. That's the fixture still. So he's doing something with the bootstrapper. The bootstrap option should install modules. Ooh, that looks promising. He's added some feature commands around it, and he's removed the bootstrap command. He's maybe moved it somewhere else. Default command does bootstrap stuff. Bootstrapper.run. It's still only if it's in settings. Bootstrapping feature. Yeah, I don't know. It's a reasonably big PR, yes, and it's been a reasonably difficult one for Patrick to keep up to date, as well as we've been adding other stuff in. So we're at a point where this is the next one that's about to get pulled in, but I've yet to test it for myself yet, so I don't know the answer to Sean's question, which is I would like to, but I don't. If it's not, it's certainly the plan to have that functionality. And then following that, we would then pull in the .NET Tool module into Cake proper, so it ships with that rather than having to download the module separately. So sounds like Bootstrap can be specified with the main command. That's nice, but moving tool is separate, if I recall correctly. Moving. So did I have the question wrong? Which reminds me, is tool support going to move? Oh, maybe the question was wrong. Sorry, I got confused by the question. No, in which case, the answer to that one is no. The answer to that one is definitely no. You'll see at the minute, cake build, cake, issues, milestones. So these issues that are currently open are all that we are pulling in for the 1.0 release, I believe. So unless you can convince us otherwise, what's in here is what's going in 1.0. So at the minute, it's going to be a standalone module that you would pull in. Anyway, I've got 24 minutes. So I think I could do what I also wanted to do in that time frame. So if we go up to here and go up to here and go into cake build cake, git checkout develop, git fetch upstream, git rebase upstream develop, git push origin. And I know that I can do a lot of that with the git pull bot before you type it, Maurice. Should be so. I don't disagree. Sean. It's more. We've been talking about. Well, we've only been talking about 1.0 for publicly for a little while now, but we have been talking about a 1.0 release of Cake internally for a long time now. So I would much rather get that 1.0 release out before we potentially break stuff. So moving components around, it's not a breaking change, it's pulling something into Cake, but I would much rather get to that 1.0 release so that we can start thinking about how we're going to handle these things. Because we're also speaking about potentially breaking Cake.Common out into its own DLL. So rather to allow the updating of the aliases within Cake itself to go in a much faster cadence if it's required than Cake itself. So we want to separate the engine a little bit. So pulling something into that engine whilst pulling things out of the engine, that to me is something post 1.0. I mean, as you'll well know, Cake predates a lot of this stuff. Cake has got a Cake.Exe, it had mono, it uses earlier versions of the Roslyn scripting engine, yada yada yada. So yes, the usage of .NET global tools is fundamental to the build process today, but when Cake first started being something, it wasn't even created yet. So I would much rather draw a line in the sand and get to a point where we can ship a 1.0 release and then go into things knowing that we're going to break a couple of things and that we're semantically publicizing when we do something to the API that breaks things. So I would much rather get the 1.0 out and then quite quickly look for a 1.1 release to start changing that sort of functionality around. But anyway, that's my take on it. If you want to propose to the team that we get that module moved in sooner rather than later, definitely reach out and have a conversation and we can discuss that. Indeed, .NET Core didn't exist at that point. And that's why we went through that evolution cycle of Cake.Core CLR, the Cake.NET Global Tool, and then Cake.Frosting on top of that. That evolution cycle has been an interesting one. Now, what I wanted to do over here was, maybe you folks will be able to help with this question as well, because it's somewhat annoying. The change that I made the other day was to Cake.Common Tools Report Generator. So in the Report Generator runner, I made an addition, which was the following. I added this guy in. I added in an additional name for the tool. The thought process there was that if I go over here and bring this in, that when you resolve the .NET Global Tool on a Mac for a report generator, what you end up with is a shim called report generator. So I naively thought, well, I'm just going to add in a report generator, an alternative tool name, and it was going to resolve that rather than report generator.exe. However, it doesn't work on my Mac, because if we look in here, and I remember the keyboard shortcut to make it appear, there we go. If you look at the tool that was resolved, which is here, the .NET Report Generator Global Tool, if you drill down into this, then within this folder all the way down here, we will find a report generator.exe contained within one of the nested folders. So because the runner is asking for a report generator.exe as the first tool name, it goes all the way down this folder structure and finds that report generator.exe and returns that as the path to the tool. And that, trying to run that report generator.exe directly on my Mac doesn't work. But if I were to run the shim, it would work. Now, I've been told that when you pack a .NET Global tool, there shouldn't be an exe contained within that folder structure. But seemingly the author of Report Generator is doing a custom new spec rather than just doing pack as tool within his CSProj file. So the kind of workaround and why I came to this file is to do what Kim's just suggested, which is to do this. Because on a Windows machine, that shim should never be there. So on a Windows machine, this will return can't find, and then it will go back to doing this one. And I think that's okay. But I also wonder whether it's an upstream bug within the Report Generator Global tool, where for some reason the report generator.exe is making its way into the packed global tool package when it shouldn't be. I am indeed, yes. I am using the .NET Report Generator Global tool, yes. And no, I'm not using the CLI, no. So, like I say, the other day I put in a PR to put this in, and now I'm going to put in another PR, which is to change the order. So if I go to pull requests and I look for closed, and I looked for ones that was me, which was this one, then this is 2822. So get checkout -b feature GH2822 take 2 from the develop branch. So where's my, what did I say in here? Change the order. So I'm just going to change the order. So this here is GH2822 change order for tool names. I believe I had an issue regarding the missing report generator on Unix, but I remember wrong. Okay, something different. When attempting to run the change that was made on my Mac, the Cake tool resolver still returns report generator.exe since there is one of these nested within the folder structure for the global tool. So even though we want the shim to be found, it isn't. It isn't. Work around this by changing the order for the tool names. Since the shim shouldn't exist on a Windows machine, it shouldn't have any adverse effects. Shouldn't. So commit that, sure. But maybe I remember wrong, since I never got a notification. It got closed with your PR. Not sure. So let's do this. Git push origin. That won't work. Then I just do this. Do this. And then go back up here. Let's see if there's anybody else on the Cake team who is awake just now. Is Matthias still in the chat? Compare and pull request. Compare and pull request. From Cake into there. Change order for tool names. Fixes. 2822. Reviewers. Let's just see who's awake. Martin, Pascal. See if anybody's awake. Create pull request. And I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put it into the Slack channel. See if anybody wants to review that. Anyone out there willing to have a look at this? Send it now, paste it into there. So there was one, I wanted to do that, and then if I get that to work, I also had something over here to do. So let's close these out a little bit. I also wanted to make sure that I have the most recent bootstrappers installed. So let's overwrite that and see what changes are made. Oh, I never finished that work. I should undo that before we do that. Sorry, I got distracted. So this is build, move common properties to global file other than setting them within each project. So that was the addition of the build.props, remove them from there, and we remove them from there. So let's do that. That's into the develop branch. Then let's have a look at updating the bootstrapper and see what files have changed. Overwrite that, yes please. And then let's see what's changed. That we've added a force on there. Okay. And then this was me changing some things. No, okay. So let's grab this out here, copy that, and let's put that stuff back in. So let's put this in here, and then in here there was a build.cake which needs to be recipe.cake. Okay, and then cake install a bootstrapper. Let's override the bash version, and then let's see what changes have been made here. Recipe.cake, and then, so we don't need that change. Build, update to latest boot strapper template. Okay. So those were the couple of things that I was remembering I needed to do here. CD upper level, into Cake-Contrib, cake.json, git push upstream. Git push origin. Okay, so my next plan of attack was to basically continue some of this work for some of the other projects in the Cake-Contrib organization. So now that we've kind of established how to SourceLink, deterministic build, and get code coverage to still work, having done all of those things, I think what I want to do is to start rolling that out throughout some more of the Cake-Contrib add-ins project. Now along the way, I will be continuing to update Cake.Recipe. So, because in order to get the embedded, in order to get the source linking, the deterministic build, all that sort of stuff, it will need to use the most recent version of Cake.Recipe to make that work. So along the way, I will be looking to make or get to a point where we have a 2.0 release of Cake.Recipe. Now some of these may get punted to the next version, but I want to get to a point where I have a 2.0 release that I can start to ship out. So there's some things in here that I'll have to, I think this one's all done. Fix usage in Travis. This one, I need to fix this one. There's lots of things in here that I would love to do for repacking. That's a good one. Publish all art. Oh, I've kind of done that based on the suggestion that Kim made. So yeah, I have to look into figuring that out as well. What other artifacts need to be published? This one I think we can close out. This, let me grab a link to the commit that fixed that. We can close it out. Commits. Which one was this one? There's my typo that Kim pointed out the other day. Update. It was this one. Let's grab this. This was addressed here. Temporarily disable use SourceLink for Coverlet. Makes everything work. So we can close that one out. But there's obviously still a few more on here. I didn't get to the thing that Pascal was wanting me to do, which was Pascal, when he is running Cake.Recipe, including the creation or the execution of integration tests, ends up in a duplicate post to Gitter for results, which is not what you want. So basically we need to detect when a build is being done as a integration test build, and then not do the teardown task, not do the publishing if it's successful. I have 4 minutes. Yeah, we're not doing that today. But what I will probably do, uget.org. Let me just check something. That will probably go out as a fix, as a 1.1.2. So did he create that as a link? He did. So I'm going to add this as me. I'm going to say that this is a bug, and I'm going to put this into a 1.1.2 release so that we can ship that sooner rather than later. So no, not doing that today, but I've at least assigned it so I'll remember about it. And I guess the only thing I want to finalize is, has this now updated? Today is the 6th, right? Okay, cool. So it's publishing correctly now to coveralls and to CodeCov. So I believe we are at a point where, look at all that beautiful stuff. Not enough recent commits found with current parameters. Okay. But do he use for the one in question? And that's why I'm why am I going there? github.com/cake.issues.recipe. He is currently using this one, so the 1.x branch. So rather than making him, or not making him, but rather than bumping him into the pre-release version, he's on the released version. So if I make that bug fix as a 1.1.2, you'll be able to change this and still consume the released version, rather than potentially pulling in some of the other breaking changes that are in here. So that was my thought process there. While I have you, Kim, am I now right in saying that now that there are published information to CodeCov, and because of the fact I'm running on AppVeyor, if I send a PR into the repository and I'll now get AppVeyor bot or CodeCov bot posting into the PR to provide me information about changes to the code coverage for that PR. Is that correct? Oh, I'm fairly sure it's still a bug. I don't remember changing anything in that code base. So I'm fairly sure. Let's have a quick look while you're typing the response to my question. Let's go git checkout master. Sure. I want to do exactly that. And then here, that's JSON, so we can close that. I've now lost it. Code dot. And the answer to the question is, yep, it should add a comment on the PR. I've had a few problems with duplicate comments though. Okay, so it's not something I've played with, so just getting it at all is a good start. Now, if I look in here, and I look in content, and I look in the teardown, which will be in here. Teardown. Because what we basically do is, if it's successful and you are configured to post to Gitter, then it will just post to Gitter. We need an additional thing in here that says whether it is an integration build. And we may need an additional parameter that says should publish on integration build, or it doesn't. No, that doesn't really make sense because we need to extend that further to include additional messages to use when you're doing an integration build compared to a normal build. So I think just not doing it when it's an integration build makes sense. I have 0 minutes left. Yes, Maurice. I'm actually 1 after now. It will also show a failing check if the new coverage patch is lower than the existing. Okay, cool, good stuff. So at the minute for Cake.JSON, it can only go one way because it's currently got 100% code coverage at the minute. So it can only go one way. Okay, so that's all I've got for just now. I'm going to close out some of these tabs. So it was interesting to find out that GitHub package repository doesn't require authentication anymore. So again, look for this list of packages to be increasing going forward, because there will be new ones finding their way into here, and or into MyGit, and or into Azure Artifacts. So again, wherever you consume your packages from, you will be able to grab them from there. That should have been correctly indexed. It was, so we can close that out. That was that. That was the bug that I've assigned to myself. I'm curious while we're on here what we're at. 22 million downloads. Cake-Contrib packages. Wow. That one, that was our 8-bit avatar from Jan. That's up there, up there, up there. That was what we were looking at. That was Marco confirming the bug that he addressed. That's that one. Okay, I think we are done everything that we wanted to do tonight. I got most of it done anyway. Let's close all these things out. Get to a natural stopping point. And final comments in the chat room. So just want to note also, Cake.Exe can be used on GitHub Actions, AppVeyor, and Azure without providing a token. I think I did see that as well. So yeah, that's good to know. I saw that in the documentation I was looking at yesterday. So that's good to know. And like I say, I have in Cake.Recipe, I've now updated to the latest version of the Cake.Exe, and I've also pulled in the .NET Global Tool version of that when you're doing a .NET Core build. So using all the latest bits there. So that's that. And all builds gets merged. And all builds gets merged. Unlike, I'm not sure I understand that statement. All builds gets merged. You're talking about the, yeah, no, I haven't got any good suggestions for what you're referring to there. I'll wait for you to elaborate before I switch the stream off. You're talking about the paths, the branches for code. I see. Gotcha. Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So builds on different OSs are merged then. I see what you're saying. Okay. Like it. Like it. Gotcha. Good stuff. Okay, so that's all I have for just now. Thank you to everyone who came along. Thank you for all your help as per normal. And hopefully see you all next week as well. So next week there'll be more of this. So it'll be more Cake.Recipe, Cake-Contrib add-ins, getting things updated, pushing out new versions, etc., etc. So that's what the plan is going forward. So thank you very much, and we shall talk to you all next week. Bye-bye.